Okay, here we are, number three. I'm sorry to take up so many. Hey, we're only at 29 jobs. We got to go to 50. Okay, hang in there, Frank. These are fun ones. These are fun. Okay, 29. 29 is uh, I was the only busboy to work at Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor that had a degree. Doesn't say much for me, does it? So Farrell's Ice Cream Parlor was right down in the heart of Waikiki. And what was so amazing about this place, right away, I was busboy. Right away, they moved me up to waiter. They could see my qualities, you know. So what was so unique about this place is it was up kind of an elevated, kind of not a second story, not a first story, but just halfway. And they had a window. When I first got there, the window had lights all around it, really nice framed. And of course, there's palm trees outside and everything. And I went, boy, they really know how to clean that window. And I went closer. They didn't have any glass in it because it was high enough to where nobody could climb in, and they just didn't need the window. It was really, really nice. So there was Farrell Ice Cream. Now, number 30. This one was very unique. I hired on as a host to a luau. It was a Hawaiian luau, and they would bring in busloads of Chinese and other folks, you know, mostly, as I remember, Chinese and Japanese coming in on a big busload, and they'd have a luau where they could get all kinds of food, and it was, you know, and they'd have Hawaiian food, and they had Hawaiian dancers that would do, you know, the stuff, and the guys that go bo bo bo, you know, it was very entertaining. So my job was to handle the door along with a young Chinese lady because we could relate, and we would help the guests come in and get them seated and keep things rolling. Well, it turns out a guy comes by one night who is actually this is part owned. This is owned by a company named Spencecliffe. These are two brothers in Hawaii that were multimillionaires because they had all kinds of businesses, all of them related to food. They had what would be the Bob's Big Boy from LA. They had that in Honolulu, and they made a lot of money. So this was one of their businesses, and the guy who was a main manager for them stopped by and saw me and said, this guy could probably get this other job. So he said, hey, when you get off here, how would you like to go over to this restaurant and be the night closer? I said, sure. I mean, more money, I'll take it. So it turns out this restaurant is called Yacht Harbor Towers. It's in the about the fifth floor of a tower of apartments right on the water at the harbor in Waikiki. This is in what, 75, 76. You had to have $1 million to have a unit in that thing in 76. So these guys had spent a lot of money on this restaurant, and they wanted it to be a five-star restaurant, which it was. It was beautiful. So my job was nighttime manager, and I would close it down, and they knew I could handle it once again because I could deal with millionaires coming through and take care of people, whereas most of the people in this organization had come from a hamburger joint, and they didn't have the people that could handle millionaires having a drink or whatever. So it was a good job. Well, then what got nice is he said, hey, I'm going to take you off that luau. I want you to be the assistant manager to this restaurant. I said, wow, I'll take that one. More food, more time and everything. So I had the day shift. I took care of the lunch shift, and then I came back and also closed at night and some of the dinner shift. So it was a heck of a job. Well, one night the gal in back who worked up the receipts, because they didn't, you know, you didn't come out with a regular here's your thing. No, you went back and had it all put together, and then you came out and gave it to the waiters did. And so this gal said, well, where'd you come to before here? I said, oh, I was at Farrell's Ice Cream. Yeah, right. That just cut my throat right there. So she tells everybody in the business, in the company, that the guy who got the top job, this is the number 2 job in the entire company. If you were in charge of this restaurant, you'd be the number 1. Second in charge, best job. And they got really mad. And there was the troops weren't happy. So they said, okay, Richard, we want you to go over to this other restaurant because they owned all these restaurants. It was a family evening restaurant, not in Waikiki, nice area around the corner from Waikiki. And so they wanted me to be, I think, assistant manager, probably fourth assistant manager, because they weren't too sure about me. So I got there, and I'm working hard. And I noticed one night in Hawaii, they've got a lot of cockroaches. I mean, cockroaches that you set your sandwich down, they'll grab it and run with it. So cockroaches everywhere. And so there's this group in a private room having a big family meeting, family dinner, and a cockroach is up on the top of the roof, unbeknownst at the time, and he just turns loose. Well, a cockroach can't fly, but they can flutter. This thing turns loose, flutters down, and falls right into Mama San's lunch, dinner plate. And oh yeah, they're screaming and yelling. So I go in, we fix it up, we comp the whole thing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, there's got to be a better way than this. So don't you know, I end up over at the University of Hawaii talking to an entomologist, asked him, tell me about cockroaches. And he gives me a whole story, whole training on cockroaches. So I come back, I say, I think we can do something about this. So I get these little lamps that were in the restaurant, these little, you've seen them, round kind of bowl lamps that they have on a pizza, in a pizza parlor place. Frank, you probably have some over at your pizza parlor. And so I figured out a way to capture and get cockroaches to crawl in there, and they couldn't crawl out. So I placed them strategically around the restaurant. This is all on my own time. And then I would get a spray bottle of spray bug killer, and I'd spray it and kill them, and then I'd knock it out and I'd count them, and I'd made this round, I made a chart and kept, all the scientific training in school. And so I come up with a number. There's something like, I don't know, I think for 20,000 cockroaches I estimated on this building and on the side building. So then I came up with a way to get rid of them, and I did that process into a building, an outsourced building that they have where they had other meetings. And I did the same test and then applied my system, and then there was a 95% drop in the number of cockroaches in that building when I processed it. So I thought, hey, they're going to want to know this. So I make a one-page write-up, I send it in, and they move me to another job, another building, it was actually to the cafeteria in Waikiki, and it was just a cafeteria in the Ala Moana shopping center. I mean, this is where you start. This isn't where you end up. So I get downgraded there. Now I'm running around bussing tables, and my wife says to me, she comes there for lunch, and she says, Dick, don't you see what's going on? I said, what? What's going on? They don't want you anymore. I said, oh, you're right. So I quit. There was the job. I started at the top and worked my way to the bottom. Not many folks have that problem, do they? So let's see. That was number 31. Yeah. Okay. 32. This was, let's see. Oh, no, 33. I had one other. Oh, a little out of sequence, but hang in there. I've got it as 33. This was the funniest of them all. This is just before we decided to move back to California, because we're not making any headway in Hawaii. So I hire on as a security officer at a hotel in Waikiki. Pretty much a hotel that's pretty much tall, not very wide. I mean, it was probably only 10 rooms deep, and I think it was about 5 stories tall. And it was in prime time, of course. I mean, prime real estate in Waikiki. So my job was to work the midnight shift from, 11 to 7 or whatever. And my whole job was to keep the prostitutes moving. The prostitutes would come into this hotel, knock on a door, say, party? Anybody want a party? And then I'd come along, and they'd hear me coming up the steps, and they'd run to another story, and they'd out the door, and it was funny. I mean, I literally chased prostitutes around all night. And I was very good at the job. I caught about 4 or 5 of them in a month or two, which was amazing, because usually they were pretty sharp. Nobody caught the prostitute. All right, 33 or thereabouts. Okay, 32. Let's see what 32 has to say. And we're at about 10 minutes. We'll take a break here in a minute. So I moved back to, let's see, pardon me, family dinners. Okay, that was the other one. Moving right along. Pardon me on the notes aren't exactly in line which what I wanted. So about 1967, we moved back to Hawaii. And this is number 34. Not a very fancy job, but a liquor store clerk. So I was lining up to go to school and worked as a liquor store clerk. And there's where I learned a very important piece of information. It's called the freeway bag. And that is when you buy a bottle of booze or a can of beer, you put it in a small bag. It's called a freeway bag because you'd be on the freeway and you could be drinking and the cops couldn't see what you were drinking. They thought you're doing Pepsi. Yeah, right. I'm sure the cops didn't understand that one. Yeah. Okay, 35. What happened here? Okay, 35. Once again, I'm going to college and working on a master's. And I get a job as a driver for this eye doctor. He was the first doctor on the West Coast to do intraocular lens implants, cataract lenses. And he had a 2-story building, and he was in the bottom, and he had all of his surgery and everything there. Well, I drove his station wagon and I went around and picked up basically elderly women who were going to get their eyes fixed and bring them back. That was a whole education in and of itself because these ladies would sit in the car, they'd talk, they'd try to outdo each other on who had the most surgeries and who had the most problems. It was funny. So I would pick them up, drop them off, and I noticed one time that the janitor that was doing the job was not doing a very good job because, hey, T&D maintenance had figured that game out. So I found out somebody on the staff of the doctor who let me know how much they were paying. And so I went to the manager, who was my boss, and she managed the building and the doctor's business. And I said, hey, I used to be, used to have my own janitorial business. How about I give you a quote? I don't think you're getting a very good job here. She says, oh, okay. Okay, smart aleck. So I come back to her with a quote that's like $100 less than what she was paying. And I said, look, I'll work the first month for free. You don't have to pay me at the end of the first month if I haven't done a better job than what you're getting done. She says, okay, you're on. So there you go. So I got the job as maintenance for the doctor's office. Okay, so number 36, I think we're going to stop here for a minute. That was Dick the Janitor. I called myself Dick the Janitor on that one. So that would have been number 36, and I think we're at about 13 minutes. So we'll take yet another break. Okay, here we go.